Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
You know what? He's not going to be president. He is not, Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank. Okay. I guarantee it.
Tonight, I call upon all of us to set aside our differences, to seek out common ground, and to summon the unity we need to deliver for the people. This is really the key. These are the people we were elected to serve.
Needless to say, Donald J. Trump has been the most controversial U.S. president in recent memory, but after his first State of the Union address, it's hard to deny that Trump has delivered results. As the president listed off various administrative achievements throughout the speech, we often saw only half of the chamber standing for applause. At one point, Trump declared that black unemployment was at the lowest rate ever recorded, only to be met by stone-faced grimaces from the Congressional Black Caucus.
And something I'm very proud of, African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded.
This moment, in and of itself, highlights what may ultimately go down as Trump's greatest achievement of his presidency, moving the Overton window and completely restructuring the narrative. The optics of Trump's first State of the Union address couldn't have been better. He got to stand before the Congress and rattle off a list of unequivocally positive ideas and accomplishments, and receive nothing but negativity from the left in response. Congressional Democrats could be seen checking their phones multiple times throughout the address. But more than this, the first year of Trump's presidency has been marked by a series of embarrassing moments for left-wing journalists and personalities. The media has been forced into a defensive position in which they seem able to do nothing other than scream and whine like children. No misrepresentation or smear is too low for them, even if it's something as mundane as dishonestly editing footage of Trump feeding koi fish in an effort to make him look incompetent. The Trump derangement syndrome is so powerful, in fact, that Trump's alleged and still unconfirmed remark about shithole countries actually caused journalists to indignantly spew racial slurs on national television.
I'm a proud shitholer. My family was called wops and mackerel eaters. We came from Italians and Irish who were regarded as people from shithole countries. A century ago, we called people slant eyes, Chinese immigrants that we're now ashamed of speaking about in those terms because they came from a shithole country and now they're a backbone of this country. In the 1940s, we called people traitors because they came from a shithole country we called Japan, and we're ashamed. We call people who fled from conflict in Central America spics and wetbacks, and we're ashamed. The president is growing this country on the backbone of bigotry that comes from when I saw my family called spics, wops, and mackerel eaters. We should be ashamed. We've learned too many lessons, and history will tell you that if you don't read history, you'll repeat them. That's what our president did for us today. I am not proud.
It really is remarkable how far off the deep end they've gone. And now the release of Devin Nunes' House Intelligence Committee memo marks a pivotal moment in Trump's presidency. His previous claims that he was spied on by the Obama administration have seemingly been vindicated, with the memo alleging that during the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee paid for the creation of the infamous Trump-Russia dossier, also known as the Steele dossier. Written by Christopher Steele, the unsourced and unverified dossier was then used by the FBI to obtain foreign intelligence surveillance authorizations in order to justify spying on Trump's campaign. However, the fact that Clinton and the DNC paid for the memo was omitted from the FBI's FISA application and renewal. To make matters worse, the Yahoo News piece, which supposedly corroborated the contents of the memo, was actually substantiated with information from Steele himself. From these tenuous grounds, the media's escalation of the Russia narrative followed. Under former FBI Director James Comey, the FBI signed off on warrants that were obtained using the Steele dossier. I'm hoping these revelations will lead to results in regard to the subjects I covered in the Surveillance Incorporated series. After all, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court is a crucial component in legally justifying the massive spying apparatus which affects millions of Americans every single day. A FISA warrant can be used by association in order to gather information on not only the target, but anyone in contact with the target. So by getting permission to spy on one person, the intelligence community can thereby justify spying on their friends, family, co-workers, or anyone else in communication with the target. If the allegations contained in the memo are true, this boils down to the FBI taking a political role in DNC-funded opposition research in an effort to prevent the election of Donald Trump. This is basically a concerted effort to undo the results of the 2016 election. Watching this play out has the potential to be more interesting than the election itself. I'm excited to give a more substantial take in the future. Anyone describing this memo as a nothing burger probably has a vested interest in dissuading you from reading it. The full memo is linked in the description. But with that, let's move on to the left's reaction to Trump's State of the Union address. The mask has slipped so hard that an NBC contributor managed to find offense with Trump's statement that Americans are dreamers too, a sentiment reflected in his proposed merit-based immigration reforms.
Americans are dreamers too. That seemed like a line that would not be received warmly by dreamers.
Right,
by dreamers, by people who are the 800,000, 700,000, 1.8 million, whatever you want to say, people, young people who were brought into this country as children, who are waiting to find out if they're going to get deported in March. The president gets up and it's like he's saying all lives matter. You know, Americans are dreamers too. Do you think it's a good idea to have that sort of rhetoric? Do you think if he dropped those dog whistles, he would make more progress?
You know, you guys say it's dog whistles, but that's his personality. So
that's his personality to divide.
Totally. Well, I don't see. You see it as dividing.
That's not me that sees it as dividing. It's folks. It's people will see this as dividing.
Indeed, immigration seems to have become the main focus of hot takes on the State of the Union address. Another NBC contributor from the same panel penned an article for the Daily Beast entitled President Stephen Miller's State of the Union address was a white nationalist wish list. Of course, actual members of nationalist circles find fault with Trump's propositions. The reforms on legal immigration aren't as strict as I would personally like, and I certainly don't support any kind of pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants. But the reason I haven't cried cuck at Trump's immigration offer is simple. The left will never make the deal with him. The border wall prototypes are apparently shaping up to deliver on their practical function, and Trump's offers for a deal have all included funding for the wall. But even when he offers a path to citizenship for more than double the DACA recipients that were originally sought by the Democrats, they balk at the prospect of wall funding. Nancy Pelosi called his offer a plan to make America white again.
That plan is a campaign to make America white again. It's a plan that says over 50% of the current legal immigration will be cut back, that many people will be sent out of the country.
The reality of the situation is that Democrats and the broader American left won't play ball on any deal that involves the wall, or any substantial reduction in immigration overall. Trump has caused them to show their hand. They are now openly stating that their electoral future hinges on the mass-scale restructuring of the country's demography. A Center for American Progress memo, released in early January of 2018, revealed the Democratic fear of losing the DACA recipients, and of reductions in immigration in general. The left are becoming more and more open about the relationship between their demographic desires and their electoral future. They were counting on Hillary Clinton winning and opening the floodgates, and now they're faced with what appears to be a lose-lose scenario. If they accept Trump's deal, they lose many potential future voters as a result of the reductions in immigration. If they refuse Trump's deal and allow the DACA recipients to be deported, they lose many potential future voters anyway. If Trump's proposed immigration reforms were to go through, we would see a dramatic reduction in both legal and illegal immigration, marking a significant deviation from the last 50 years of immigration policy. Even if your personal goals are much loftier, you cannot deny that this would be a step in the right direction, and at the risk of being bombarded with 4D chess memes, I think Trump's approach to the immigration question is brilliant. He started a national conversation, one that will not go away even after his presidency is over. He's moved the Overton window in ways that online political movements never could have moved it. The fact is, so-called anti-SJW internet culture became popular because it was a reflection of the average normie's reaction to progressivism. Even now, the everyday apolitical Joe probably doesn't even know what an SJW is, but the moment they become aware of SJWs, their reaction will likely be something akin to what you'd hear from Sargon of Akkad, Bering, or a former persona of mine. And this brings us to the matter of the discourse. Trump's candidacy and presidency have cleared space for us to discuss issues and perspectives that would never have been publicly discussed a couple of years ago.
Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina released a statement today that neatly summarizes how most of official Washington thinks about this subject. In a statement, Graham dismisses the idea that America should even think about what kind of people it lets in. Quote, "I've always believed that America is an idea," Graham wrote, "not defined by its people, but by its ideals. Diversity has always been our strength, not our weakness." America is defined by its ideals. Okay, so what are those ideals? It might be useful to know, considering how important they are. Well, diversity is our strength is the only one our leaders seem to agree on. The less we have in common, somehow, the stronger we are. Is that true? We'd better hope it's true because we're betting everything on it. But there's a deeper problem with what Senator Graham said. Quote, "America is not defined by its people." Really? What do its people think about that? Are they pleased to learn their leaders consider them merely a commodity, a set of interchangeable parts? America's actual people, with their actual families and towns and traditions and history and customs, may be surprised to learn that they're irrelevant to the success or failure of what they imagined was their country. According to Lindsey Graham, you could take our entire population and swap it out for 320 million, I don't know, Chinese or Indians or Africans or Canadians or people from New Zealand, and the place would be no different so long as the idea was still there. Does anyone actually believe that? How about we test that idea, starting with the U.S. Senate? Would South Carolina get the same representation from someone randomly selected out of the phone book? As Lindsey Graham would say, the Senate isn't defined by its people. It's really just an idea. And as soon as you start defining things by ideas rather than individuals, people become irrelevant.
The rise of Trump was a result of the American left taking it too far. Their anti-American, anti-traditional, anti-white, anti-male rhetoric was pushed too far and too hard into the average person's face. The Trumpian approach has normalized the concerns of millions of average Americans, concerns that they didn't feel safe expressing before Trump expressed them. And as the Democratic Party and the left at large continue to double down on rhetoric that the average person was already sick of hearing before Trump, it becomes all the more obvious who they view as their enemies and what they envision for the future of America. And recognition of this in 2018 is both crucial and delightful because the American left appear to have learned nothing from the last 3 years.
The mechanic in Pittsburgh, a teacher in Tulsa, and a daycare worker in Birmingham are bitter rivals rather than mutual casualties of a system forcefully rigged towards those at the top. As if the parent who lies awake, terrified that their transgender son or daughter will be beaten and bullied at school is any more or less legitimate than a parent whose heart is shattered by a daughter in the grips of an opioid addiction. So here is the answer that Democrats offer tonight. We choose both.
We have a guy, a president, who clearly is owned by Putin. We have an investigation going. Okay, that's good news. We basically now have a press release that's been put out, that's been twisted and mangled, that now will give this president permission to fire Rosenstein, who will now take over this investigation. Our democracy is under siege. People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator. This is not something to analyze anymore. Yeah. This is not so, oh, a good day for Trump.
Jeffrey, you've read the memo. What do you think? Might the FBI be in trouble?
No, I think this is an absolute disgrace. I think this is a dark day in American history.
They shouldn't release the memo because God help us if they do. Whoa, that memo is really damaging. They're so bad at this. Can I do your messaging for one day, just one day? Or get Kyle Kulinski to do it. Just somebody with any sense at all.
This is terrifying. This is not time to analyze and pundit. People, we need a revolution at this point. And I'm not doing TV here, and I'm not going, ooh, crazy Donnie. Well, this is what's going on.
You know what is interesting? I mean, I talked to a person, a former top intelligence official for this country under Democratic and Republican presidents, who was just as mad as you are. I mean, you and this former and he said, you know.
You bravely say, me too. You steadfastly say, Black Lives Matter.